Welcome to Map Autopsy. Today's map on the table, Sam Harris. And this is not a clown autopsy. Harris is serious. That's why he matters. He escaped a religious dogma. He fought through consciousness, meditation, morality, free will, violence, tribalism, and the illusion of the self. But every escape route can become a new prison. And Harris's prison is beautiful. It's clarity. Let's Steelman him first because he deserves it. Harris refuses sloppy religion. He cares about consciousness. He takes meditation seriously without needing supernatural baggage. He wants morality to matter without divine command. He hates tribal delusion. He values clean thinking. He tries to remove unnecessary suffering. His best function is epistemic hygiene. He walks into a room full of inherited myths, tribal slogans, and sacred fog machines and says, "Can we please stop lying to ourselves? That's not nothing. That's valuable." A culture drowning in bullshit needs people like this. So here's the Harris map. It's built from rational skepticism, neuroscience, meditation, no self, moral realism, anti-tribalism, and a deep suspicion of religious certainty. The goal is purification. Remove confusion, remove illusion, bad metaphysics, and unnecessary suffering. But we're going to ask an additional question on top of this. What happens when purification itself becomes sacred? What happens when the deconstruction is no longer just a means? What happens when clarity stops being a tool and starts becoming the throne? No self is a serious insight. Harris is right. When you look for a little captain behind the eyes, you don't find one. Wittgenstein agreed. You find sensations, memories, thoughts, impulses, attention, body signals, stories, reactions. The solid ego starts to dissolve, and that insight matters. But constructed does not mean fake in the cheap sense. Constructed does not mean disposable. Constructed does not mean irrelevant. The self is not a thing, sure, but it's also not nothing. Or maybe, put better, it's not no thing. It is a functional mediation layer. This is where Zeno of Elea becomes a weapon. Zeno was a pre-Socratic philosopher who studied under Parmenides, was close with him. And Zeno put a warning label on rational clarity. Follow formal reason in one purified direction, and Achilles will never reach the tortoise in front of him. Motion becomes impossible in this paradox. The living world gets shredded by a clean machine. Now, I'm not saying that reason is useless, but what I am saying is reason is not God. Harris uses clarity like a blade, often beautifully, but Zeno shows what happens when the blade forgets it's a blade. The map becomes so clean that it starts rejecting the messy world it was built to describe. Parmenides completes the bridge. Parmenides says, being is one, changeless, and indivisible. This is where the original simulation theory started 2,500 years ago. Zeno takes that pressure and makes plurality and motion look absurd. Harris does something structurally similar with the self. He applies attention so cleanly that the ordinary self collapses under inspection. But just because something collapses under one mode of inspection does not mean it has no reality at all. A rainbow collapses if you try to grab it. A nation collapses if you put it under a microscope. And the self collapses if you hunt for it like a marble lodged behind your forehead. Rainbows, nations, and selves still organize experience. They are not ultimate, but they are definitely not nothing. Jean-Paul Sartre saw something adjacent. The self cannot become a clean object to itself. Consciousness slips. It negates. It flees. It tries to become a thing and fails. And when the other looks at me, I can become trapped inside their frame, fixed, named, and objectified. Sartre finds the fractured self and gives you anguish. Harris finds the fractured self and gives you mindfulness. Both puncture the cartoon self. But Harris sometimes makes the puncture feel like the cure. Here's the load-bearing tension. Harris dissolves the self, but he still needs responsibility, ethics, moral concern, political judgment. He still needs love, blame, apology, discipline, parenting, friendship, civilization. In other words, he dissolves the ego, but still needs a person-shaped structure to do human life. You can say the self is an illusion, fine. But then who's mediating them? And who's meditating? Who's becoming less confused? Who's morally responsible? Who's writing the book? Who's getting the book's profits? The answer can't be a little soul ghost. And Harris is right to reject that. But the answer also can't be nothing. The better map is not eternal soul versus no self. That binary is too crude. The self is a living interface. Body, memory, language, attention, promises, wounds, habits, social recognition, time. It's not ultimate, but it is necessary. It's not God, but it's not garbage. It is not an eternal soul statue, but it's also not useless hallucination either. The self is the operating handle through which human being lives. The goal is not to worship the self. The goal is to annihilate the self. The goal is to stop mistaking the self for a throne, while still respecting it as a tool. So what is the hidden religion of clarity? It is the belief that if we just remove enough confusion, enough superstition, enough identity, enough illusion, and enough bad thinking, reality will finally become clean. But reality is not always clean. Reality is poetic and tragic at times. It's erotic, absurd, violent, silent, tender, excessive, and unfinished. Harris's clarity is powerful, but clarity is not the whole cosmos. Clarity is only one register of reality, but it is not the throne. Sometimes the true register is absurdity. Sometimes it's eros. Sometimes grief. Sometimes rage. And sometimes it's silence.